MS-13 and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, who is truly the most brutal criminal organization in the world. One side consists of wild murderers, ready to torture their victims with machetes just to assert dominance. The other is a militarized cartel, controlling the drug economy and challenging even governments. But the more important question is, does violence truly determine power? Or does real strength lie in control? If killing the most people equates to being the strongest, then why have organizations that murder thousands each year disappeared within a decade? And when CJNG collapses, who will take their place? A new force, one that doesn't need guns but can manipulate the entire system from the shadows? Let's explore that right now. Violence. When we hear this word, we often immediately think of gruesome murders, horrifying torture, or corpses hanging in the streets as a warning. But in the world of crime, violence is not just an action, it is a tool, a strategy, and sometimes, a way to create power. MS-13 and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, two names associated with the most terrifying images of the underworld. One is the most dangerous street gang on the planet, so brutal that even the FBI calls them cold-blooded murderers. The other is Mexico's killing machine, unafraid to confront the government and willing to turn an entire city into a battlefield. But the real question here is, who is truly more terrifying? If we only consider the number of people killed, both have staggering figures. But if we dig deeper into how they kill, why they kill, and the level of control they can achieve, a clear distinction emerges. One kills because violence is an instinct for survival. The other kills because violence is a weapon to run an entire empire. Let's start with Mississippi 13, the gang infamous for the most barbaric style of murder in the world. MS-13 does not kill simply to eliminate enemies. They torture, they torment, they want their victims to feel every ounce of pain before they die. They prefer machetes over guns, not because they lack firearms, but because they want the killing process to be agonizing and prolonged. Those who betray the gang might be dismembered, burned alive, or forced to eat the flesh of their own comrades. But what is truly horrifying is that Mississippi 13 doesn't just kill rivals, they kill innocent people to spread fear. In places like El Salvador or Honduras, there are areas where even the police don't dare to set foot because they know that anyone can become a target for something as trivial as a wrong glance. They don't care about consequences. They don't need to hide. Their goal isn't money or political power, it's domination through fear. But this is also MS-13's greatest weakness. A group can kill thousands each year, but without a strong financial system, without political backing, they cannot last long. Violence alone cannot buy power, it can only create chaos. And this is precisely where Mississippi 13 differs from CJNG. CJNG doesn't kill for pleasure. They kill with strategy. If MS-13 are madmen with machetes in hand, CJNG are professional assassins who kill with a clear objective. They don't kill enemies randomly, they kill to send a message. Kill a cop to intimidate the entire police force. Kill a politician to control the entire government system. Kill a journalist to silence the media. And when CJNG kills, they don't do it in silence. They record videos, they post images, they turn each death into a propaganda tool. They want the Mexican government, the people, and the world to know that they are an unstoppable force. But what makes CJNG truly terrifying is not how they kill, it's their level of organization and control. They have their own private army, heavy military-grade weapons, a sophisticated money laundering system, and the ability to bribe politicians, police officers, and even the Mexican military. While Mississippi 13 can control a neighborhood or a small city, CJNG can manipulate an entire nation. So, who is truly more dangerous? If you only look at the brutality of individual murders, MS-13 might seem more horrifying. The gruesome torture, the senseless killings, the alleyways where anyone can become a target, all of these make MS-13 a nightmare. But when it comes to real power, CJNG is the true dominator. They don't need to kill people daily to prove their strength. They can run the underground economy, manipulate politics, and control society without ever revealing their presence. So the real question is, are you more afraid of a wild beast? Or of someone who can control the entire jungle? Violence can spread fear, But only true power can maintain dominance. And if we must choose an organization that can survive long-term, MS-13 may eventually be eradicated one day. But CJNG will continue to grow unless a force strong enough rises to stop them. But if CJNG is the most powerful now, what happens when they fall? Could there be an organization even more brutal, more dangerous, waiting for the opportunity to take their place? Get ready for the next chapter, as we dive into the most crucial question: who truly has the ability to endure in the underworld? And is there a force even more dangerous than CJNG lurking in the shadows? Ready to rise? CJNG may dominate the present, but if there is one certainty in the underworld, it is that no organization is invincible. Today, they may be the most powerful force, but tomorrow, another may rise, more ruthless, more dangerous, more intelligent. So what could bring about CJNG's downfall? Let's look at the history of once dominant criminal groups, the Italian Mafia, the Medellin Cartel, Los Zetas. Each of these organizations was once considered unbeatable, yet they eventually disappeared or weakened. What did they all have in common? They became too big, too violent, and too confident in their power. CJNG is now making the same mistake. They don't just control the drug market, they openly challenge the Mexican government, wage war against the military, and assassinate high-ranking officials. This has made them the #1 enemy of the state. And no government will tolerate an organization that operates the country from the shadows. If they continue to expand without changing their methods, they will face a war they cannot win. But that doesn't mean the world will become any safer if CJNG falls. Because if CJNG disappears, another will take its place. A new organization, one that may not be as flashy, not as overtly violent, but far more sophisticated and harder to eliminate. An organization that combines three elements: the brutality of Mississippi 13, the financial control of CJNG, and the political infiltration of the Russian mafia. Imagine a group that doesn't need to kill excessively yet can make an entire government tremble. An organization that can use cyber attacks to control the economy, launder money through cryptocurrency, and manipulate the media to steer public opinion in its favor. This is the future of organized crime. No longer will gangs roam the streets with guns and machetes. Instead, an invisible force will control entire systems from the shadows. The question is, have we already seen signs of this organization? If CJNG is destroyed, who will take their place? Is there a rising criminal group that we have yet to notice? And most importantly, if the criminal world is evolving in a new direction, is there any way to stop it? The underworld never sleeps, and what we see now may only be the beginning of something far darker. If there is one certainty in the underworld, it is that the powerful today can become the hunted tomorrow. CJNG may currently be the most dominant criminal organization in Mexico, but they are also following the same doomed path as the cartels before them: too violent, too conspicuous, and most importantly, too confident in their own strength. They have crossed the line between a criminal organization and a military force, making it impossible for the Mexican government, backed by the United States, to stand idly by. Look back at history. Pablo Escobar once controlled all of Colombia, but he was eventually hunted down and killed. Los Zetas was once the most brutal cartel in Mexico, but now they are merely a shadow of their former selves. The Sinaloa cartel was once the #1 drug empire, but after El Chapo was captured, its power began to wane. What do they all have in common? They became so powerful that the government had no choice but to eliminate them. And now, CJNG is following the same trajectory. But what happens if CJNG collapses? Will the world become a safer place? The answer is no. The criminal world does not operate under the simple rule of eliminate the bad guys. And the problem is solved. When one organization disappears, another takes its place, and this time, the successor to CJNG could be far more dangerous, an organization that does not need excessive violence to maintain power but can control entire systems without anyone noticing. Crime is evolving. If CJNG is a cartel that rules through brute force, the next generation of criminals could be an organization that infiltrates the government, manipulates the economy, controls information, and uses technology to establish true dominance. They may not need to kill hundreds of people each year because when you control the flow of money, data, And politics. You don't need violence to manipulate an entire nation. This is the real threat. When groups like MS-13 or CJNG kill, we know who they are. And we know they must be hunted and destroyed. But when a criminal organization leaves no trace, does not flaunt its power, yet still controls society, how do we fight against them? Is there already a new force rising in the shadows, more sophisticated, harder to detect, and more dangerous than anything we have ever seen? This question remains unanswered. But one thing is certain. The war against crime has never ended. It has only changed its shape. If CJNG collapses, what will happen next? Will this mark the end of the underworld? Or will it merely be the beginning of a new force, one that is more dangerous, more sophisticated? History has proven that when one criminal organization disappears, another rises in its place, stronger and better adapted to the times. Groups like Mississippi 13, the Sinaloa Cartel, the Russian Mafia, or the Chinese Triads have not only survived but evolved, discovering new ways to expand and maintain control. So, who will replace CJNG? Is there another organization quietly rising, not relying on public executions, not hanging bodies from bridges to prove their strength, but instead controlling the economy, manipulating politics, and leveraging technology to become the next dominant power? One undeniable truth remains: crime is becoming smarter. If gangs like MS-13 once relied on machetes and guns to maintain power, the new generation of the underworld is using technology, finance, and politics to establish control in ways that are nearly impossible to stop. Imagine an organization that doesn't need to bribe the police because it already controls everyone's personal data, turning enemies into puppets with a single keystroke. A group that doesn't need to launder money through traditional means because it can manipulate cryptocurrency markets, making billions disappear without a trace. An organization that doesn't need violence to seize power because it can create a puppet government where every decision is made from behind the scenes. This is the next generation of crime. Criminals who don't need guns but can still control the world. If CJNG falls, it won't mean the world has become safer. It will simply signal the beginning of a new era of crime, where power no longer belongs to those who shoot the fastest, but to those who control information, economics, and politics. So the biggest question now is not how to eliminate cartels like CJNG, but how to stop the rise of these next-generation criminal organizations before they become an unstoppable force. If in the past, we could identify gangs by their murders and street wars, today, the real enemy may be manipulating the world from the shadows, unnoticed by anyone. Are we preparing for a war against enemies we cannot even see? Or will we one day realize that the rulers of the underworld are no longer those who wield guns, but those who can control entire systems without anyone knowing? Violence can create fear, but true power does not lie in the number of victims. It lies in the ability to control the world without anyone realizing it. MS-13 or CJNG may be the most notorious names today, but the next generation of criminals will be more sophisticated, harder to identify, and most importantly, more dangerous than anything we have ever known. So, what do you think? Which organization is truly the most terrifying? And is there a hidden force rising that we have yet to discover? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss any of our upcoming content.